As far as economic growth is concerned, Islamists obviously understand, in the short term at least, that to consolidate their power, they have to improve the economy. And to do that, they'll have to employ rational methods. Those rational methods will be implemented on the short term. Look at Turkey. But they will be justified with a range of fatwas, allowing, for instance, interest law. Peace with Israel. The doublespeak will continue. If you read anything that the leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamists say, what you will find in there is a call for the destruction of Israel. In English, they murmur something about standing by the rights of Palestinians to support a peaceful protest. But if you scan their language, if you scan their writings and their speeches, you will never find the promise of a two-state solution. Islamic terrorism under an Islamist winter is going to become a matter of domestic and foreign policy. Is the winter now settling over the Arab world as bleak as I have just described it, or are there signs of hope? I see 4 signs of hope. The first is the election results in all of these countries where elections have been held. The secular parties did not do as well as the Islamists, but they are there, and they are significant. And some of them, in the case of Tunisia, are in fact part of the government. And these secular Arabs may not be atheists, but they are rational enough to conclude that the affairs of politics should be separated from the affairs of religion. A second sign of hope that I see is the Iran uprising of 2009. I don't know if you remember that, but those young men and women on the streets were not protesting against kleptocrats with a secular stamp on them. They were protesting against theocrats. They may not have voted or protested for a secular liberal democracy as we experience it here in Australia and in other Western countries, but they said no to Sharia after having lived under it for 30 years. The third sign of hope that I see is the Muslim diaspora. Ex-Muslims like me in Europe and in North America are growing in number. We give speeches, we publish articles and books, and we communicate with one another. We make use of such tools as Facebook and Twitter. And at this point, our impact may seem insignificant, but it has the potential of the freethinkers of Europe 200 years ago, or maybe 300 years ago. And I come to my 4th point. Talking of free thinking and Twitter, our project may not take centuries. For consider Hamza Kashgari. Put up your hand if you've heard of the name Hamza Kashgari. It's a pity because that puts me in a position that I have to tell you who he is. It's a Saudi man, 23 years old, journalist, who on February the 4th this year tweeted on the birthday of Prophet Muhammad about an imagined meeting with the Prophet. He had 3 tweets. Knowing how short they are, would you like me to read them to you? The first tweet, he says, "On your birthday, I shall not bow to you, I shall not kiss your hand. Rather, I shall shake it as equals do and smile at you as you smile at me. I shall speak to you as a friend, no more." Do you want to hear the second tweet? "On your birthday, I find you wherever I turn. I will say that I have loved aspects of you, hated others, and could not understand many more." Third tweet. "On your birthday, I will say that I have loved the rebel in you, that I've always been a source of that you have always been a source of inspiration to me, and that I do not like the halos of divinity around you. I shall not pray for you." Hamza then clarified his tweets to those who preemptively misunderstood him. He said, "I view my actions as part of a process toward freedom. I was demanding my right to practice the most basic human rights, freedom of expression and thought, so nothing was done in vain. I believe I'm just a scapegoat for a larger conflict. There are a lot of people like me in Saudi Arabia who are fighting for their rights." Hamza described the status of women's rights in Saudi Arabia by stating that Saudi women will not go to hell because it was impossible to go there twice. Now, it is developments like this one, individuals like Hamza, who give me the hope that I have that that world will change. When I was 23 years old, I was not advanced in my thinking as much as Hamza Kashgari is. And you may hold against me, for those of you who know the story, and say, yes, but the king of Saudi Arabia had him brought back to the country. The Mufti is like a supreme leader among the clerics, demands that he be tried. And after he tweeted, 30,000 instant tweets and Facebook page was started calling for his death. That is all true. But once you start thinking, and mark his words that he said he's not the only one, once you start having doubts like those, once you start having questions like those, then you don't go back, even if you're forced to apologize. And ultimately, even if you're killed, it is out there. Islamists come to power with the help and trust of like-minded people, with money and state power. For the secular spring that many of us hope for in the Arab world to take place, those secular parties, groups, and individuals need to win hearts and minds. And for them to do that, they need help. And I've asked myself over and over again, why is it that liberals, secular liberals in the West, fail to help not only secular Arabs, but all freedom-seeking peoples in the world to win the hearts and minds of populations? Why are liberals insecure about the morals they live by and in which they raise their children? I've asked around, and I found 3 explanations. I'm not sure they're the only explanations. I'm not even sure they are corrupt. They are correct. One of them is given by Roger Sandel, the Australian anthropologist. He says that it's because of romantic primitivism. People, especially middle classes who live in free societies, romanticize nativity and primitivism. This is not something of our time only. It was there from the time of the Greeks, from the time people have known civil society. And The most famous primitivist, he says, is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who saw something noble in savages. In literature, I find this state of mind explained best by Charles Dickens. If you read his novel Dombey and Son, you will see that there is a character there, Cleopatra, who speaks to Mr. Carker, and she says, "Those darling bygone times, Mr. Carker, with their delicious fortresses and their dear old dungeons and their delightful places of torture and their romantic vengeances and their picturesque assaults and sieges and everything that makes life truly charming, how dreadfully we have degenerated." Dissatisfaction with civilization. In our day, I see this condition with middle-class, liberal women who convert to Islam, cover themselves from head to toe in black, ugly gear, take to the streets and say that they are liberated. Liberated from what? And liberated to what? So as far as those women are concerned, I will buy the explanation of romantic primitivism.